Good evening. This is Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, and I'm JP Marzullo. And tonight I wanted to do what Josh does always to me, so I'll do it anyway. So Josh, how you doing? Well, he's not here. He's actually not feeling well today, so he's left this to me to do. So we'll start with that. Tonight's guest is a good friend. But before I talk about her, I'd like to just remind people that we're sponsored by Wilson Hill Pistol Club right here in Manchester, and they do a fine job, and we're really happy that they're sponsoring our program. So tonight I have Representative Catherine Prudhomme O'Brien, affectionately known as KPO. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and so I'm going to start by just reading a little bit about her bio, because I didn't know half of this stuff.
Where did you find this?
So I found it online.
Oh, okay.
So Catherine previously served a term in New Hampshire House in 2015 and 2016 and was a member of the Labor Industrial Rehabilitative Service, right?
I was in labor my first term.
You were in labor your
Yes,
first
I
term?
was.
Oh my God. She worked for 10 years as a machinist and a professional level handmade flute and piccolo maker prior to teaching her two daughters at home until they went to high school. In 2014, she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in American History and Legal Studies from the American College of History and Legal Studies. Where is that, by the way?
Salem. It was in Salem, New Hampshire.
It was in
and
Salem.
It was a senior college, and
Oh,
so
nice.
They are no longer.
They're
in
not there any
operation.
longer.
Yeah.
This is kind of intriguing to me. She attended Northeast Regional Vocational and Technical High School in Wakefield, Mass. in 1988, was the first female to graduate from the machining program. We should talk more about that in our state, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine was very active in her town, elected to the Dairy Public Library Board trustees, appointed an alternate dairy zoning board. Why am I having trouble with that? Because I'm from Deering.
Oh, that's, yeah.
So it gets a little crazy. She is active Republican, working on numerous presidential senatorial and congressional campaigns, and was elected NHGOP State Committee member 8 times. This is kind of cool. She had appeared, and this is why I'm so proud that you're on here. She has appeared as a guest on numerous national and local television and radio programs, including The Sean Hannity Show, The O'Reilly Factor, The Howie Carr Show, I don't know how to say this guy's name, The Michael Smerconish.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with him.
I think he's on CNN now.
He's on CNN now, okay, and Inside Edition and others.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're honored. I'm honored to have you here. I'm sure Josh is too, but again, he hasn't shown up because he's not feeling well. Last thing I'd like to say, though, is that she'll also kick your butt in a chess match if you if you want to go that far.
That's right.
I can remember when you were in the house and I was there with you, we would have lunch, and we had talked so many times about playing chess until you told me that you would go to Dunkin' Donuts and beat the pants off of these guys.
No, I would not beat the pants off of them. I would go to Dunkin' Donuts and play chess with them. But there's a man that's there, and he's there a lot. He's there like 8 hours a day, and it's moved from Dunkin' Donuts, by the way, and it's now at Panera across the street.
Oh, wow.
They have some. I think they gave him some perks, like maybe some free coffee or something.
Free coffee,
yeah.
nice.
Because it's the magic chess spot in Manchester.
Oh, wow.
So people go there and they pick up games and talk
Now,
to
which
people.
Panera is this? Which one is it? On Willow or
Yes.
on Willow Street?
Yeah, yeah. So
there's a plug for not only Paneras, but for those of you who like to play chess. That might not be bad. He
yeah,
just,
there's a nice guy. His name is Dave. He's an older fellow, and he, I think he had some medical issues, and he can't walk and do a lot of things, like walk around like he used to, but he can sit and play chess.
That's great.
And it keeps
Have
him
you
busy.
played him lately, or?
He's gotten so much better. I mean, I say that like it's a bad thing. I mean,
Yeah.
good for him. That's great. But he always beats me, and yeah. So,
Yeah, so-
I mean, there's been a few times that I beat him, but I got to remind myself. I'm saying this, like, he plays 8 hours a day.
Right, exactly.
So
Exactly.
you know, if I did that, where would I be?
Exactly.
And then other people throughout the area come and visit with him and play chess with him also. So there's often many people. I think he was featured on Chronicle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just saw an article somewhere, maybe on Facebook, so you take it for what it's worth, I guess, but there's a young woman who's a master chess player,
Yeah.
and she's not going to the European match because
Saudi Arabia. I think it's Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia.
it's in Saudi Arabia. And she refuses to follow their rules, and she's given up a lot of money and everything, but good for her. She stayed with her core value and is not willing to do that, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell people what committee you're on,
Okay.
and maybe you can tell us what's going on in the State House that we should be talking about to have people understand.
Okay, there's lots of things going on at the State House. There's so many things. Every bill gets a hearing, so there's
Right.
a lot of hearings. And then when it comes out of committee, I'm on the Election Law Committee now, no longer in labor. So
Yeah, it's been a long labor, right?
yeah. So there's so many bills there that I just, thinking about what to talk about on this show, I just came up with a few that I've talked about recently. I
Right.
spoke on the assisted suicide bill on a show on WMUR
That's,
recently.
yeah, that's where I heard that too. I'd like to talk about that. If you want
Yeah.
to start with that,
Well-
let people know, let our viewers know what the bill says. And
Okay, I brought some notes because I did a lot of studying on the issue. One of the ways that it first started was in the Netherlands. It was considered something that the first idea was that it was something that older people should do to make way for new generations.
So carbon footprint, get rid of your footprint.
No, this would be back, I think in the early 70s it started to be talked
Okay.
about, maybe late 60s, and it was
Right.
called responsible aging.
Oh, boy.
They were calling it responsible aging.
Wow.
So at a certain point, you should responsibly age yourself out of, living.
Right.
And then that way, younger people would have more resources, I suppose. That's
Wow.
the theory on that. And that,
Is that what the bill said?
No, of course
Okay,
not.
go
Of
ahead.
course not. No,
What did
They
it,
don't say. They wouldn't say anything like that.
yeah.
No, but that was where the idea started to be talked about. Was in the Netherlands in the early. You want to go back a little further?
Kevorkian, was he?
Kevorkian.
Yeah.
He was a proponent of it in the 80s
Right.
and 90s. Dr. Jack Kevorkian. But even before they were talking about it in the Netherlands, it was spoken about in. And I don't like to bring this up, but it's the truth. Am I having problems
Yeah,
with
no,
this?
put that on your collar
I don't
because
know how to do that.
there's a clip there. Here, I get it. Oh, there's no clip on that
invisible
one. Okay, so maybe we could
You know
wrap.
what? I brought a clothespin with me.
There you go.
Which is just a total coincidence.
Somebody knocked the camera.
I get a lot of questions.
You brought your own clothespin. I love that.
Yeah, always be prepared.
Go
I thought
ahead.
you might have some laundry to hang. I didn't know what was going to happen. Okay.
So go ahead. Now I think I can hear you.
Okay, so this even was discussed by the Nazis. If you want to
Right.
go back in time with who originally was starting to talk publicly in, I'd say, like recent history, and I know that's a long
Right.
time ago, but in the big scheme of things, that's recent history. So the Nazis were proponents of responsible aging.
Responsible
let's get rid of
aging.
the elderly that are no longer producing. Let's get rid of people that are disabled, that are feeble-minded.
Right.
They even made a video, the Nazis made a video about a woman who had a disease, a chronic disease, and she asked her husband, who was a physician, would you please ease my suffering and get rid of, she didn't say get rid of me.
Take my life.
I
yeah.
know, I'm putting my own spin on it.
No.
But she asked for that. And they, the propaganda of that was the same as responsible aging. Don't have people around that are no longer productive.
Yeah, that's something that I've often wondered when people are not productive in your society, that would be the next step, I guess. Once you can't pay any taxes or contribute to the society, that's a slippery slope
That's a
they're
very
looking
slippery
at.
slope. And a sort of slippery slope or mission creep of the original intentions of why countries such as the Netherlands and Canada start these medical aid in dying, that's what they call it, MAID, or assisted suicides, or euthanasia. I think the Netherlands is euthanasia, meaning that they have to have a medical personnel on site when you are taking the medication that will kill you. But the original intents do change, okay? So it starts with people that are terminally ill. Then people who have chronic illnesses ask for it. Then people who have depression ask for it. Then in Canada now, it's this month, it's starting with people who have depression and mental illnesses can ask for it. But originally in Canada, it started with only the terminally ill. So there is a lot of mission creep, and then a lot of people who have financial problems will start asking for it. And then people who are not even asking for it are being offered it. A woman in Canada needed a ramp. She was a veteran and a former Paralympian. Okay.
Wow.
Why would you not be proud of this woman?
Right.
Okay, as a Canadian, if you were Canadian.
Sure.
So she called to get more information about a ramp for her house. She really needed a ramp. It was a big problem for her. It was taking her many, many years to get this ramp. And the person on the other end of the phone at the Veterans Affairs of Canada offered her medical assistance in dying. And she was so,
Wow.
you know, insulted by it.
Wow.
She said, I don't need a lot of help in living. I just
Need to
need this
get-
ramp.
Right.
And why
That's
are you
pathetic.
giving me help to die, but you won't give me help to live?
That's horrible.
And I think it violates the Hippocratic Oath.
Sure.
And how would you feel if you have a terminal disease and you need to get medical care? You might then start wondering about how much medical care are they really giving you? Are they really doing the best they can for you?
Right.
Or are you being treated differently because the same physician will give out pills that would kill you and you can take them home?
Wow.
And,
So-
and another thing I came upon, I'm sorry to interrupt
no,
you,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No,
I just want to get
no,
all
keep
of it
going,
out.
get it
But
in.
another thing that I came upon was that people sometimes made the decision to take advantage of medical aid in dying, and they brought the pills home. And some states do have this, like Oregon. This is a kind of a problem in Oregon, that they'll take the pills home, and then they think that they're going to wait, you know, for just the right time, but they might change their mind. Say they change their mind, and there's someone who has an interest in their passing away.
Like in their will or something, right?
Something like
Something
that,
like
or
that,
maybe
yeah.
they're just whatever. There's a lot of
Right.
you know, things we could bring up. But if they said, I changed my mind, I don't want to take this, and then somebody gave it to them, there would be no investigation about that. That would be a murder, and there'd be no investigation. There'd be no reason to investigate. You know, and there's a lot of those pills that are out there in states like Oregon. They're out there. They were prescribed at a greater rate than they were actually used. So they're just
Wow.
out there. I hope they've been tossed away, you know. But
Wow.
I don't think we as a society should say, don't commit suicide, but then also sometimes do commit suicide. You can't have it both ways. And
Right.
we have to focus on how to help people that are suffering and people who have mental health challenges, and help that we consistently work to help them, not
Sure.
offer them
A way to
a way to
die.
commit suicide.
Yeah.
Rates of suicide increase on all levels when a society starts doing euthanasia and medical aid in dying, because it becomes an option that people start to think about.
Yeah, I mean,
much
I
more.
could see veterans that are having a tough time, maybe have PTS, and
Oh my gosh.
22 or 23 die a day. Veterans commit suicide. This would be something that we should keep away from them. First of all, we should try to help them the best we can. How was the bill received? Was there testimony for this? That it didn't make it to the floor, did it?
It hasn't made it to the floor yet. It's coming
Yet.
soon. But the committee, I think it was, let me see, I wrote it down in
Yeah.
my other notes here. I think it was, came out of committee 13 to 7. So 13 members voted for it, 7 didn't, and that was out of the Judiciary Committee in the House, and it's going to the House floor. If people have an opinion on it, I would advise them to contact their state representatives and let them know.
So what's the bill number so that somebody could,
HB 1283.
HB 1283?
Yep, HB 1283.
And who brought this bill forward? Who are the sponsors of this
Smith,
bill?
Margie Smith. I think that Bob Lynn, who's a Republican out of Windham, I think he's on it as well.
He's on it as well.
Yeah.
And
Smith is a Democrat, so you could say it's bipartisan.
so have there been has the LOB had a meeting somewhere where people could go, or is this?
Yes, you could
Is
speak to the Judiciary Committee when they brought that bill up.
Right.
And then they think about it for a little while. They listen to everyone's testimony. They read what
Right.
people have written to them, and then they take a vote on it in executive session.
So that was
and
the
that's what I was-
executive session vote?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm
wow.
talking about. The executive session on the Judiciary Committee, 13 of them voted in favor of it.
Wow.
7 voted against it.
Was that bipartisan as well, do you know?
It sounds like it would be because
Yeah, 'cause-
everything's so even. It's 10-10 on these committees.
Yeah.
So that would have been 3 Republicans that went
Right.
with, or I don't know. I'm not sure on that mix because I didn't get that broken down.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, it's not a straight Republican. It's usually Republicans will be against it, and usually Democrats will be.
Right.
But that can change. That can
Sure.
be a little different. It's
Sure.
not always like that.
That's an incredible bill, and I think anyone who believes in God and as a Christian would certainly doesn't want anybody to interfere, number one. Number two, when the time comes, it'll come. That's how I feel. I mean, I turned a big number this year. I turned 80
Oh my gosh.
in December.
Wow, happy
And-
birthday.
Yeah, thanks. And it was difficult. I got 70 wasn't any big deal to me. 80 is a little different. It changes your thought process, and you want to know what more you can do to help people, what more you can do to quite frankly, just leave with people thinking that you did the best you could. Gary Hopper, we're trying to continue his legacy here, but I had many conversations with him, as did Josh, before he passed. And I could see that, I learned a lot from what he said in the last days. And so it's difficult. And I can see where people, families have to be affected by this. I mean, and that's why, they say, do you want a doctor? And in your will, they say, not in your will, but I'm trying to think what you call
Living
it.
will, yeah,
Living will, yeah. Do you want a doctor, 2 doctors to make the decision as to whether they should take you off of the, the vent or whatever they're using.
And how much medical intervention do you want?
Right, exactly. And that's a tough decision to make
Yeah.
because you would not want to leave your loved ones with the pain of seeing you
Right.
just hanging in there.
Right.
But I don't, I think sometimes the assistant physician or the nurse, they see you more. They know who you are. They have a better feel. Where most doctors, not all of them, certainly not. There's a lot of good doctors who are in there trying to talk to you about it. And as you get older, there are things that don't work anymore. I have a lot of issues that I'm okay with, but I'm really horrified with this bill, to be quite honest with you. It just leaves a lot to be desired. But so that's one bill.
So, but I want to maybe
Yeah.
go back a little bit to how some of the questions that I got, and I think that the people that or the sponsors of this bill probably have good motives, that they don't want people suffering, and that I get that.
Yeah.
But I also have a perspective where my mother-in-law lived with me for 17 years before she passed away at the age of 98.
Wow.
Yeah, and she lived with my whole family, and she was there when my kids were growing up.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law, she lived on a commune, and the commune fell apart. It was a women's commune. So,
In the States?
yeah, here in the States, yes, it was
Yeah.
in Kentucky.
Okay.
It was in a rural area of Kentucky, and
Yeah.
and all the women that were on the commune left, and she lost her community, and
Your network,
she was
yeah.
pretty sad. And she also had some adjustment issues because she was not straight, and she wasn't sure how accepted she was and everything. When my mother-in-law was living with us, she was not, like you would say, productive, right? She wasn't doing a lot of things. She was,
Right.
as time went on, she could do less and less.
Sure.
That didn't make her less valuable to us.
Exactly.
She still had a lot to offer. And then when she didn't have a lot to offer because she was, she was having trouble mentally,
Sure.
that was the time when we wanted to take care of her and do everything we could
Right.
to keep her comfortable.
Right.
Sort of like our way of saying, telling, showing how much we loved her. And
Right.
then the same thing happened with my sister-in-law, but because of that history that I was telling you about, it was even more important because she got very sick, and I'm so sad about this still. She passed away just in July,
Oh.
and just coming up here is one of the hospitals that she was at. So she got sick and was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. As soon as she got the diagnosis, it was stage 4, and
Wow.
she went really quickly. But we were able to help her get her pain taken care of, and
Sure.
she was able to be in hospice. And in this whole process, which was just a few weeks, the family came from out of state, and we're telling her about all the things that we loved about her. And
Yeah.
she said during that time she felt really loved and she was happy, and
Yep.
she was happy that we had that time to do that. And
Yeah.
we didn't give her, she was in a lot of pain, but she was able to manage that pain.
Sure.
When the time came, she was able to manage it when she was in hospice. And we,
Oh,
if we
sad.
didn't have that good system of hospice that we have,
Yep.
I might see that I might concede that there were some reasons for why we need this, but I don't. But that's not where I'm at, because
Right.
we do have that.
Yeah.
We do have that.
Yeah.
All
Wow.
right.
Take a deep breath. Thanks for sharing that, by the way. Appreciate that. What are the things that are going on at the State House that would, well, one of the things I remember we talked about a little bit before we went on the air was the terminology of illegals versus undocumented, which our president actually said illegal and then backtracked, changed his mind because he had a lot of pressure from the left in his party. And all of a sudden it's changed now, just like he came up with the name newcomers. I mean, no. I
think it was a term that was probably acceptable when Biden was, for most of his life, and then the term has changed in within his party. So Democrats no longer find that to be an acceptable term in the last, say, 5 years or so.
Yeah.
It's still a term that's used legally, and that's something that, so what happened was a few days ago, there was a Senate hearing here in New Hampshire, and there was a senator, Senator Gannon, who used the term illegal aliens. Then another senator pointed out that she thought, and that was Becky Whitley, she thought that we should call them individuals who is undocumented, which is quite a mouthful. And because she wanted to, center on their humanity and not on, I guess, them being in the country illegally, because I guess no person is illegal or something, whatever, which is, I mean, obviously, it's not about the person, it's about their status, and their status would be illegal. And I think that, like, obvious. I think that sometimes Democrats think that we don't know this stuff or something.
Yeah, I think they try to change the terminology to fit their agendas all the time, and then they expect people to think this is normal, to call them, undocumented. They're not, they're undocumented. Pardon me, that makes them illegal.
Senator Abbas chimed in, and he said that this was a legal term that's used in his field. He's a lawyer, and he's using it all the time. And okay, then fine. And then Becky Whitley, the senator who didn't like the term, said that the immigration and naturalizations or the border control is not using that term anymore. Well, that's one agency, or that's a directive that was sent down to them from the Biden administration. That doesn't change the fact that it's a legal term.
Right.
Abbas, said that if you want to change it, talk to your federal delegation about changing the term consistently throughout, everything. But that has not been the case. And I think
has that been heard yet?
That was just a hearing.
Just a hearing.
On licenses.
Oh.
I don't know all the specific details, but I think it was about licensing for illegal immigrants, versus people who are immigrants otherwise for other reasons, such as if they're legal immigrants.
Right.
That's a different That's a whole different story.
It's just amazing what's going on.
If they're awaiting an asylum hearing, well, I don't know. I don't think we know everything about people who are waiting for an asylum hearing.
Yeah.
And the way they're being processed at the border.
How are we going to even find them? We don't know where they are.
They're sent off to go do their thing.
Yeah. All right, so
for a while.
that's another one. I know you have a bunch of them, so let's see how many we can cover.
All right.
Because I'm interested in everything you've. You know,
All right.
we've never had anybody come on here who's actually studied and done this, and this is cool because usually what we do is we just say, as I did in the beginning, what committees are you are, what's going on, and then we keep quiet. But we have to feed the person sometimes to get something out of that.
Oh, really?
But in your case, this is great.
I came with my
No,
notes
that's
and everything.
tremendous. So go ahead and
All
let's
right.
talk about another one that you
So-
think the viewers might want to hear.
All right, Animal Abuse Registry. That's another bill that is out of committee and it hasn't gone to the full House yet.
Okay.
And that is HB 1505. That is a bill that I was the prime sponsor of.
Okay.
And my daughter is an animal control officer, and she asked about that because of the difficulty that she has. I waited for about 6 months thinking about it because I didn't want to be biased towards what my daughter wanted me to do. I wanted to make sure it was really
Yeah.
what she is my constituent. She
is.
Yeah. So she wanted to remind me. She's like, Mom, I'm your constituent, so I just wanted to let you know about this. So anyway, So. I just needed to really be convinced that it was good for everyone in the state and also.
I thought we already had laws on the books to arrest people who are abusive to the animals, and it's pretty severe, which it should be. I mean, but so what is this? How
So
does
it takes
this bill
a long time to
different?
get there. You have to be there has to be a lot of proof. There has to be a lot of education offered as well. That's usually so. Just paraphrasing what my daughter often tells me is that the
Yep.
first thing that they try to do and what animal control officers try to do is educate you on a better way to treat your animals, and then hopefully that problem is solved and that's the end of it.
Is
But-
it a big problem in a state, or
Well,
becoming, or?
Well, it's difficult for the information from community to community to get out there. So that was part of, this would be solved by that.
Oh, okay.
And I even asked, what if the Animal Abuse Registry, it would be modeled after the Sex Offender Registry, which I don't mean to mix up those two issues, but just as a way to easily create it, it would be modeled after the Sex Offender Registry. And I thought that would be the easiest, most cost-effective way to handle it.
So how would
But there would be
that
very
happen?
few people on it. This is the way it is in Tennessee.
Okay.
There is an animal abuse registry in Tennessee and in some parts of, let's see, New York State by counties. They have that. They have this, and if you're convicted of severe crimes towards animals,
Right.
Dog fighting, these sorts of things. In our state, you would be on here for 2 years and then off. And then you would, if it happened again, then you'd be on there for a little longer, for 5 years, and then you would be off. It would not be a permanent thing. Sex offender registry is permanent in a lot of cases. This would be different. And I don't really think there would be many people on this registry.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
There'd be very few. There'd be very few. It would be, cases where it just was continuing and it was.
Yeah, we've seen some places where they had
egregious.
like 30 dogs in the house, or
Yeah.
150 cats, or
Yeah.
horses that have been abused, and
Yeah.
and they try to find places for these people, not the people but the animals in the state.
Yes, those the issues that have been very tough
So
to
that's
deal
the
with.
kind of thing they'll. Is it on that
Hoarding-
massive number?
yeah.
or-
Hoarding is terrible,
Oh, is
and
that
the
what you
animals
call
really.
hoarding,
Yeah,
yeah?
that's called animal hoarding, and the animals
wow.
are really suffering
interesting.
with that. This would help other agencies that adopt animals out to know that that's what's happening with this specific person. They could look some of that up and keep these people from continuing to adopt.
Okay, got it.
So, or obtain animals. Anybody that's selling or giving away animals would know that this is an issue to just take a look at.
Yeah.
But I think the big concern was that it was overly punitive, that it was too, that it was too mean, and I think committee. I'm paraphrasing also for the committee. I think they wanted more education, which, like I already told you, is the first step with what
So
animal control officers
what
are
did your
doing.
daughter say about that? What would she like to see happen? That would be an interesting.
Well, she was in favor of it because she wanted more information about what was going on throughout the entire state, and she would know
Okay.
more about that. And The other issue would be expense. They had a large price tag on it. I don't know how accurate that was. I did what I could to, like I said, model it after an existing program
Right.
to keep costs down. You just don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
This is what they did in Tennessee. This is how it worked there. I'm not so. I didn't completely agree with those cost estimates, but.
What-
Okay,
what-
and that would be
what kind of
out of
numbers
the
were they,
Department
do
of
you
Safety. I think it was
recall,
like
or-
100,000 or something.
100,000.
I think that was like a safety number, so that no matter what happens, if they were to set it up, they're not going to go over budget and
Yeah,
have that problem. So, anyway, if people are interested in that, they can call their state representatives and tell them about HB 1505 that would establish an animal abuse registry in our state, similar to what they have in Tennessee and parts of New York, counties in New York. And
So this would affect like puppy mills?
if you were abusing the puppies, yeah, that
If
would,
you-
it would be part of
yeah,
it. If you were
okay.
found to have been abusing puppies,
So let me ask you this: if someone were going to adopt a dog at one of our facilities, they would have to they give them your name and stuff. Would there be a list?
there'd be a list, and if I
And the
was
person would say, "No, we're not going to do that."
if I was adopting dogs out, then I would see that and I'd say, no.
okay.
Okay, so it
That's-
would give people a tool. I even asked, what if we've got an amendment on that and made it non-public and only
right.
police and,
The officer.
yeah, they
animal
would know.
control
Yeah, they
officer.
would know, and they were not the committee was not interested. So once you hand your bill off to the committee, it's their baby now.
Yeah.
So they were not interested in that.
Now, what committee was that in?
That was in Environment and Agriculture.
Okay, so that's Judy Aaron is the chair of
She
that.
is, yeah.
Okay.
One of my bigger concerns also was that a lot of animal abuse is connected to human abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been
if
proven,
if we
right.
can address it
Yeah.
from that angle,
Yeah.
that would be great. It doesn't always,
Doesn't always correlate, right? But it's
well,
or
specifically,
does it?
it doesn't always correlate in hoarding situations because that
Right.
motive is often
Different.
people have understood their own abilities to care for the animals.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a little different. That's usually their motive is different, and
Okay.
they just are not seeing if conditions change, whatever happens in their life, and they can't care for the animals as well as they could before. That's one thing that can happen. Or the animals reproduce and they feel like that's gotten out of their control. I had to deal personally with an animal hoarding situation, and that's what happened, and it was
Wow.
miserable, and it was traumatizing, and I also was asked about a specific person who was suspected of being very violent towards humans, and one of the issues that and this was police, I was talking to police, and one of the things they were asking me about was animal abuse, and I was so sad. I had to say, yes, I've seen that. It's happened many times. It was scary.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
scary stuff.
we see that a lot in TV shows and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Where the police find out that they were an animal abuser, or they would connect it with an animal abuser. I mean, that's
Jeffrey
the-
Dahmer was doing animal abuse before he did human abuse.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yep, it's not uncommon. Yeah. I mean,
Couple of really tough bills coming up.
if you want to hurt vulnerable people,
Yeah.
you would have that same interest in hurting vulnerable animals. It's
Yeah,
the
that makes
same
sense.
thing. Yeah. So, okay. So that's sad. But anyway, that did not do very well in committee. Unfortunately, they did not vote in favor of it.
So
They
it's
voted
not going to
ITL.
come to the floor then.
It
Was it ITL'd or?
It will come to the floor, and it was ITL'd 19-0, and I was so upset. I was like, "Come on, throw me a bone." 19-0. This is terrible.
An animal bill, throw me a bone. That's a great
So,
line.
yeah. So, nothing. Nobody. Not one. But like I said, I think they were concerned with the cost, and that's nice. I'm glad that we do have a legislature
Yeah.
that's concerned with cost.
Yeah.
I, had my own opinions on the cost.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think
But-
you're right, though. They set a number that they know they'd never get to.
Yeah.
And people looked at it and say, why are we spending so much money on this? And this is, when you're a fiscal conservative, you look at everything that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to look at the risk versus the reward of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more of that done. A lot of times we forget what the bill is about because we see the number and say, we can't afford to do that. But can we afford to have this abuse continue? That's the question.
It's embarrassing to be, I'm sure, if you were a person on that registry, that would be very embarrassing. But you know what would happen to you is people around you would know that you have a problem.
Right.
And they would start treating you differently, just as if you,
Yeah.
if you're
agree
on
with you.
other kinds of registries, people will protect vulnerable people
Right.
because they don't want people to be abused. It's the same sort of thing, and you can't really put a price tag on that. And then when it comes to animal abuse, you can't put a price tag on this not escalating to human abuse.
Right.
You cannot put a price tag on that.
Exactly.
What is the price tag of a person who has been abused or killed? What is the price tag of what we have invested in them as a society and what we are not getting back from them? And I always feel like that when I always think about that with people that are, I'm going to veer off into a completely different subject.
That's okay.
But young people that pass from drug overdose, I think, my goodness, this person is like in their 20s or something, and we spent, as a society, we spent so much time and effort on their parents raising them, the community, sending them to the community schools. We invested heavily in them, and then this is tragic on so many levels. We need young people. Oh, man.
So one of the other things I noticed on your bio also was about libraries.
Yeah.
And so isn't there a bill or something going on now?
Yeah,
with that?
I love reading. I was a library trustee because of that. I was a library bum as a kid. Do you know what a library bum is?
No.
I don't know if there are
Well,
a lot
you
of them.
go there, hang out, and just read all day. But
Yes.
they're doing that now, though.
No, not a bum who goes to the library. No. I would just hang out at the library a lot. I spent a lot of time at the library.
So did you volunteer time to, put
No.
books back or anything, or just sat there and
No,
read?
that would get that would have gotten into my reading time. So what I did was I walked around the library and I would just take a bunch of books. Oh, this looks good. I would just walk around and
So
have
you
like
were
a
good at
handful of
looking at
books.
the cards and finding books.
Oh yeah, I could do that. That was so fun. And then I would just go to a corner of the library and read and things like that.
Do you do that in bookstores? When you can get away with it? or-
Well, that's a different thing. You have to decide: am I buying this? Am I not buying this? And that gets expensive. So
I love
I
it.
do have so many books at home that I need to get through. So I'm just.
So tell us a little bit, I mean,
All right,
I
so
hear
these
so
bills-
many things about what's going on at the libraries.
All right, so some bills there that we had relative to libraries would be HB 1308. We did hear this last week
What's it
in the full
called?
house.
Because a lot of people won't remember that.
It would allow parents to access their children's library records. Now, when I mentioned
Through
that,
an app?
no.
Oh,
No, if you go to the library and
Right.
with your child, say your child is
a
has
public library? You're talking about a school
yes,
library?
public library.
Okay,
So
got it.
you go there and they might tell you, oh, your child has a fine on this book, and you ask, oh, what book is it? And they say, sorry, we can't tell you that.
Really?
Yeah, this happens constantly. So when I was a library trustee, this is what parents would constantly be complaining to me about. They say, I had to pay a fine on a book, I don't even know what it is. Well, that's
Wow.
because you got the card for your child when they turn 12. They offer the card, it's a friendly experience, and then
Sure.
it makes them feel more grown up. They can get more books out. They can get
Right.
books from the adult section, and I'm not saying that they're all bad. All the adult books are bad,
Right.
but some of them parents would like more information on.
Sure. It's
and
not age appropriate.
Some
right?
parents have that feeling,
Yeah.
and they can't even find out what the kids are taking out.
Wow.
I used to be able to tell my daughter just go when they were, because I taught them at home, and
Yeah, you homeschool them. Yeah.
and a big part of my philosophy in learning how to read was having interest in reading. So I would just let them. One of my things I did was I would let them go to the library and just read about what they wanted to, just as I did when I was a kid. I would
Sure.
just take all these books out and I might read a chapter here, a chapter there, the whole thing, half of it, I don't know, and then put it back.
Yeah, right.
So, or take it out, I don't know. And I wanted to help them with that too, but now I wouldn't want to do that because there are some books that are, I think a lot of parents would find were not appropriate for kids to be taking out, but they're encouraged at the library, and so
So what-
it's not the same. You know what it is? Parents have a level of trust at libraries that they have trust, and then they feel like it's betrayed sometimes when they find out about some of these books that are, you know, rather graphic. Graphic novels have become very popular in the last, say, 20 years or so. And they're like cartoons,
Right.
Or comics, but they might have serious subjects
Right.
on about they might be about serious things or biography, and that's I think it's an interesting way to present some ideas. It's good. It's good, and
Yeah.
kids like it, especially teens, and
So
then it's gotten quite graphic.
So when did you decide, and this is kind of a little bit off the subject, but not really, to homeschool your children? And
Oh, okay.
what made you make that decision?
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. See, this wasn't one of my notes, but okay.
That's not in your notes. I'm going to throw you.
How much
throw a
time
few
do we
minutes.
have?
Well, we have about 15 minutes.
Okay,
so.
okay. It started where, so this was when I was making musical instruments. My daughter was in daycare, and she
No,
was,
wait a minute now. So this is when you were making the instruments?
yes.
Piccolos
Yeah,
and
I was making flutes at the time.
flutes.
I had moved on from piccolos and I was making flutes. I was moving up in the world, moving down on the scale because the piccolo is so high pitched. All right, so I was making flutes, and a couple things all happened at the same time. I was having some injury with my wrist, and it was really difficult. It was so painful, and I couldn't
like
even.
carpal tunnel syndrome?
Yeah,
or-
something similar to that with the tendons. I had
Yeah.
hurt my tendons with the polishing operation. I
Oh, wow.
learned as soon as I got the injury that I was doing things really bad for
your
myself,
wrist.
for my wrist. I was
Yeah.
it was hyperextended. There was vibration involved with the polishing machine, and I was putting some weight on it. As a woman in that field, I was taught how to do it by a man, and he had a lot of upper body strength.
Sure.
I did not have the same. I had to do a lot of things to overcome that.
differently,
That was
yeah.
something I did. I didn't realize I was hurting my wrist. I hurt my wrist really bad. So I thought I needed either surgery or a rest with my wrist. They needed to rest for a while. And my daughter started to have some trouble at school, like adjusting with, she's being bullied. And I just didn't want to continue with that.
Was this a public school?
No, it was at a private
Okay.
school, and I just thought this was all ridiculous, and I just wanted to take her out of that environment. And I had previously taught immigrants to read through Catholic Charities. That's another story.
Wow.
They were adult immigrants. So when I was in my early 20s,
Now, were they,
they were from Vietnam.
okay, so
And
they were legal immigrants.
They were legal immigrants. They were the children of
the
soldiers in
Vietnams,
Vietnam.
yeah.
So it took until they were about 20 years old for these children of American soldiers in
Soldiers.
Vietnam
Yep.
to finally come to the United States. And when they came to Boston, I saw that we were about the same age, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So I volunteered to help them. And Catholic Charities told me, if you can read, you can teach people to read. And that gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah,
and
wow.
so I thought, I can do kindergarten. I can teach my daughter to read. I can do the math. I can do all the other things. This is not too hard.
Sure.
And then that just kept snowballing until high school.
Oh, wow.
She wanted to go to high school. And then the same thing with my other child.
So did she go to public high school? Or did you go
She
through?
went to
did you finish?
Pinkerton, which is
Pinkerton Academy.
semi-private, semi-public, whichever
Because you
one.
live in
Derry.
Derry.
Yeah.
So you have that option, right, to go there. Is that true or not?
Every student has the option to go there. That's sort of our
Public
school.
private school.
Every student goes there. It's a private school that every student in town
Yeah,
can
why
attend
wouldn't you? Yeah.
because the town pays tuition to them.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's how
Nice.
that works. So yeah, that happened with my younger child. Also wanted to go to high school, but prior to that was homeschooled.
So I'll take you to the next logical step for that, which you were just talking about. So what are they doing now?
Oh, well, my older one is the animal control officer
Right.
in a community here in New Hampshire, and my younger one is working and trying to think about some next steps. She's
Yeah.
in her early 20s, so
That's great.
yeah.
That's good. So you see a lot of them, do you?
Yeah.
That's
as much
even better.
As much as possible, yeah, as much as I can.
That's awesome. So what else did you have? So let's finish on the library thing.
That bill, HB 1308, that was in Children and Family Law Committee. Then it went to the full House, and it was voted down. It was 194 to 170. So 194 representatives voted to kill it.
Right.
Because they thought children should have privacy, and that if parents want to know what books their kids are taking out, the parents need to go to the library with them, or not get them a card for the adult section of the library to keep them with the children's section. So you have a 15-year-old kid, you're going to say, I'm sorry, you can't have that card because, or you can't go to the library by yourself. And
right.
I mean, kids can read those books on the shelf by themselves, but not take them out. You wouldn't know about it if you think that it's okay to send your kids to the library by themselves. They're going to read these things.
Right.
I don't have a problem with difficult topics in books and books that cover someone who is gay or coming out. I don't have a problem with that. But this is, if I showed this to
These
you,
are graphic.
and people were handing out copies of this book at the library for another similar bill.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pages that it's frightening.
I have asked Democrats who support this, I've asked them directly, at what age would this be appropriate for your child? They will not answer me. They will not answer that. They just think that I'm, I don't know, some sort of a bigot because I'm opposed to giving children pornography.
Wow.
I don't know if they think I haven't thought about all the many facets of it, but I'll tell you something. If you're a child and you're involved with state services or the foster care system, one of the things that brings many kids into the foster care system is being sexually abused.
Sure.
And one of the things that social workers will first start to ask about is what kind of experiences you're having with maybe this adult that they're concerned about. Are they giving you anything inappropriate? If that adult is giving that child pornography, that's a red flag, and one of the reasons they may want to take the child out of the home, because that is that's a grooming mechanism to get the child to think that things that are not appropriate within those relationships, the kids will think they are appropriate. That is how you sexually abuse children.
Yeah.
This is, and we spend so much money on trying to help these children that have had that experience. Why are we, giving them this stuff? If you go to the library and you see this stuff on the shelf, you're going to see that it has been approved by a group of people: the librarians, the library trustees, the staff,
school board,
the schools,
or maybe not, right?
This would be in school libraries, absolutely. This stuff is in school libraries, which, by the way, I should point out, is not public. Okay, the contents of a school library is not public; it's semi-private. The New Hampshire Library and Media Association. It's like the Library Association for schools in our state. Define this in most states. They define it as semi-public, meaning that you can find out about it if you're a current parent or a current student. Anyone else? They're not going to tell you what's in the libraries. They're not going to tell you what's in the libraries. I mean, I have told people, go to your town and call the library in the school and ask if you can find out what's in the library. How does that go for you? You're not going to be able to do it unless you're
even though they're your taxes supporting that school.
They want you to pay for it. They just don't want you to tell you. They don't want to tell you what it is. If you're a current parent, a lot of current parents do not want to make waves, so they don't want to complain. And then as soon as they're not a parent anymore, they say, "Oh, well, you're not a current parent. You don't have access to that
So I have a
that
question.
app that tells you all the books."
Who has the last say in what books are put in the library?
That's usually a committee of, say, the director and maybe a few other staff members. They're going to make those.
But no parents are involved with that.
Usually not.
Wow.
No, they would. No, they would. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Gosh.
Maybe the school board could. School board usually wants to protect them, because these people also, they'll have some knowledge on how to appropriately develop a whole curriculum and a whole collection that that would address a myriad of issues and would be well-rounded and
Yeah.
they may have a degree in library science. So, but you got to look at the American Library Association and what they're promoting, and that's trickling down everywhere.
Yeah.
You should, yeah, read some of that stuff. That'll be fun.
You've given me a lot of homework.
Oh, we never got to talk about my trip to Iowa.
But we have 8 minutes, so go.
Okay. So this was a little controversial when it happened. When Casey DeSantis asked people that were working on the DeSantis campaign to participate in the Iowa caucuses. When I heard that, I never thought I would be voting. She was asking us to vote in the Iowa caucuses. I heard she wants us to go and maybe, I don't know, hold signs or call people in Iowa and say, hey, it's caucus night, don't forget. Or something like that. Or then she started talking about make a speech at a caucus. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could go to Iowa and make a speech. I'm kind of a nerd. I could go to Iowa and make a speech. My first thought on that was, sounds kind of fun, but it's in Iowa and that's a long trip and I don't know, why am I going to go to Iowa in the wintertime? And then I remembered, my grandmother, who I lived with her for a little bit when I was a kid. And she told us about her childhood in Iowa.
In Iowa?
Yeah, yeah. So she grew up in Iowa. She was raised in Iowa, and it was a rural area. And so I looked up the town, and I got really excited.
Did you get to go to the town?
I was really excited. Oh, wait. No, yeah, I got very excited. I was like, I'm not going to Iowa. That sounds crazy. And then I remembered Grandma lived in Iowa, and she told me all the stories. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I want to go to Iowa. Oh, yeah, I would like to go to Iowa. Like, I turned around so quickly. And then I told my husband about it. I was like, you know what, all I want for Christmas is to go to Iowa. And he's like, this is crazy. And I was like, I know, but I get to go to the museum and the libraries and look up all the stuff about my grandmother.
Oh,
and
wow.
so that's exactly what I did.
How
I went to this very rural community. It was about 15 degrees below zero when I arrived. It was very cold. I was very concerned about my car. I rented a car. I was very concerned about it breaking down on the highway, and that was a reasonable concern to have. Half my luggage was Arctic wear, that would support life in the event my car broke down. And it's good I had that.
So you were ready.
So I was ready for my car to break down because I was not sure how long it would take to get a tow truck. I didn't know what environment I was going into,
Sure.
like how far away.
So you were well prepared.
I was well
prepared. As you were tonight.
Yeah. Then the team told me that they had people in all areas. So if my car broke down, I would be safe. I would be, I'd be alive. That was what I cared about. So they would come and get me, and then we'd worry about the car. So that was great. And then I did drive to a very rural location that I was like 3 towns away from where my grandmother grew up, but I felt like it was not safe for me to drive at night in these temperatures by myself.
Wasn't there a storm there too? Or
there was
a lot of snow?
There was a storm just before we arrived,
Okay,
but there was still an Arctic blast, so it got up to about 10 degrees at certain points, but that's
wow.
it. That's it. And so at night, I didn't want to drive unfamiliar locations, that cold. Okay, so I didn't, and plus the town that she grew up in turned out to be so small that I was advised to do research in the county seat, like the capital of the county. And then so I went there, I made a speech in this really tiny town to about 80 people. I thought it was a great speech. I said, this is my family name, and if there's anybody with that last name here, please come talk to me afterwards. Because that's a good thing, that, it would be great to meet you, maybe,
Yeah.
and it's good to know, because maybe you'll need a kidney someday. And I didn't offer them a kidney. I didn't offer them a kidney for a vote or anything like that. There was none of that. I just said it would be good for us to know each other in case
right.
you guys, anybody needs a kidney. And there were a couple people that piped up, and I said,
wow.
tell me about the spelling, and we'll talk afterwards. And turned out the spelling wasn't exactly the same, but then I made my speech, and I thought it was fantastic, and it was great, and I got 11 votes out of about 90, because everybody else seemed to be on board with Trump.
Yeah.
I met the
That's a great experience.
the county sheriff, and then the next day I did all that research, and I found pictures of my grandmother and my great uncle.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and it was really great. And then the next day I went back to Des Moines because I had to catch a flight out, and my car broke down.
Going back to the airport?
On the edge of Des Moines, just the town just north of Des Moines. It was like, what is going on? They had some like weird transmission problem that seemed electrical, and I knew it wasn't me because I was going up a hill. But this is not right.
So
this is not
how
me
did you
being
get-
accidentally in neutral. This is, what the heck? Next to where my car was having problems was a Peterbilt truck repair and dealership. So I spent the next 5 hours in the waiting room with truckers from all over America, and it was fascinating.
That was cool, I bet.
That was really interesting. We had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch while their trucks were being repaired. And you know what they wanted to know about New Hampshire?
What?
They wanted to know about our soil.
Our soil?
They wanted to know, they're like, how is your soil? How's your soil? What's it like? What's in it? Like a lot of leaves
You would
because
have
of all
liked
of our
that.
deciduous. They
Yeah,
don't have
Howard
near-
Pearl.
they
Howard
don't-
Pearl would know that.
Well, I could tell them, it's like, it's
Yeah.
the same pretty much it's like the forest, it's pretty
Right,
acidic,
right.
it's a lot of
It's
leaves.
acidic,
There are
yeah.
a lot of deciduous, every year we have all these deciduous leaves, maple leaves.
Yeah. And we're not called the Granite State for nothing.
And yeah, and a lot of rocks. And they were talking about soil in every other state in the country. And what do you want to know about the soil in Tennessee? What it smells like in Seattle.
We're going to have to wrap it up here. We should have you, I will have you back on again if you'll come.
Yeah, we have a
because there's
couple
so
more
many
Post-it notes to
things
get through here.
to go, but
we
why
never
don't-
did get to some of these
Yeah,
things.
why don't you tell the people how they can get in touch with you, your email address at the State House or whatever you
Okay.
use.
Okay, what is
why
my
don't you?
email address at the State House? It's KPO
Yeah.
at, and then what's the little things at
Oh,
the
yeah.
end there? It's KPO at ledge.state.nh.us.
Okay.
And I'm on social media. I'm on X as Rep. Prudhomme O'Brien. I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
My whole name, Catherine Prudhomme O'Brien, and Catherine Prudhomme O'Brien 4NH. So you can find me lots of ways. And
Well, that's been
they
fun.
could call you and talk to you. And
That's been fun.
Get
Thanks
my
so much for
info.
being on, and we're going to end it here. But next week we have Sharon Boldock coming on, so that should be interesting. She's coming on to discuss what it's like to be a wife of a military person and what her role was. She's also a veteran, but I'm looking forward to that. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week.